Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of History After Hours. My name is Kevin Pumphrey, and with me is Mr. Ron Franklin, Miss Emily Diedrich, and Mr. Lewis Jolly. We are four history teachers at Lakeside High School in Hot Springs, Arkansas. We are recording this live at Collective Coffee on April 4th, 2024, just 4 days before the very famous solar eclipse that we're all about to experience. And tonight, the students were full of questions. They asked us all sorts of questions about music. They asked us about our teaching career, uncomfortable teaching topics, what's better, gas or water to have an unlimited amount of. So there was a lot of great questions from our students, and we really enjoyed this time, and we hope you do too. Thank you. All right, it's another History After Hours podcast. We are live at Collective Coffee. The date is, April the 4th on a Thursday. We have a bunch of students looking at us, so welcome to Collective Coffee. They are going to ask us questions. We have no idea what they're going to ask, so please step up, state your name for the record, and give us your question. Ask away.
Hi, my name is Mary Lopez, and I was wondering, what if the Library of Alexandria had never been destroyed? How might it have influenced the development of knowledge and technology?
Okay, so the accumulated knowledge of the ancient world basically in one spot, from what we've heard, I don't know if that rumor is actually true, and it did not burn down all at once, by the way. That was kind of a weird, I don't know if that's what do you call that? Like when people think it's true, but it's not. Is that like
urban legend?
Yeah, urban legend, or what's the Mandela? We'll have to get into that. I don't even understand how the
Mandela
thing got
effect?
going. Yeah, so you think it's true, but it's not. So the library burned down. Well, it was a series of things over a long period of time, conflict in the area, and anyway. So, but what if those scrolls had been saved?
Estimated date here?
Well, some of it was closer to the turn of the, if we think about our timeline with like the zero mark being the birth of Christ or whatever, then somewhere around that range, when the Romans, probably before that though, when they really start 40-ish BC on through, a series of events. But yeah, so if that knowledge hadn't been lost, how would that affect us today? I mean, good Lord, that's hard to even fathom, honestly. What if we didn't have to start back over from zero with some of the knowledge what if it had been preserved in different ways beyond the fall of the Roman Empire? And what if we knew the secrets of how they actually built the pyramids? We wouldn't all this guesswork and conspiracy theories and that kind of stuff. But would we be more advanced because of the knowledge that was lost? I mean, it wasn't the only library, though.
We know about Plato and Aristotle, so we know stuff. How did we get the information we have? What were some conduits of how did we get the information? Where did all that come from? The information we do know about BC times.
Well, it was saved in different formats in different places. So
iCloud.
Persia had libraries. Mesopotamian folks had libraries. Folks in Turkey had libraries. So it wasn't the only one around, but it was apparently one that had mass knowledge that had been, shelves and shelves. But I think in India, I would assume that they would have massive libraries in different places too. So, I'm sure we haven't lost everything that they knew, but so it's kind of hard to gauge how much more advanced we might be. It's fun to speculate, though.
It may change how we view some of the things historically, for sure. We were having that conversation in the hallway the other day. Just how we teach things as new information. We use the example as how we learned Columbus versus probably how you learned about Columbus, right? It's two totally different things. But also, does it change the power structure of something like the Roman Catholic Church and how they were able to control information throughout the Western world and things like that? Because when you control the information and you control the message and you control the narrative, it helps people stay in power, to develop in different ways. That's an interesting thought experiment.
Would there be so much advancement that we would have had greater technologies to already have destroyed ourselves once or twice over?
Maybe we don't lose...
Go the dark side.
We don't lose the hieroglyphics. Maybe that knowledge was there. Maybe Socrates did write something that was stuffed in a...
Maybe aliens actually built the pyramids.
When I taught world history, I always taught the first civilization, Tigris and Euphrates, Mesopotamia, 3100 BC. We pretty much now know there were ancient civilizations before that. We don't know exactly all the details, but through the recent archaeological results, like Göbekli Tepe and other things, could have reached back to 9000 BC. So just even changing a paradigm on what occurred, we think we have a good grasp of history, but I think we just barely kind of know what a lot of the high points were.
Isn't that one of the appealing things about studying this, though, and
Yes.
teaching, is that there's always something new to learn? It's not a. I know some people feel, well, it's dead, it's past, who cares, whatever. But I mean, you learn more about human nature, and the more that you dig, the more you find, and the more you reveal the patterns, which helps us understand ourselves better. I just think it's endlessly fascinating. So that's one of the things that keeps me doing this year after year.
By the way, I'm making a list. Y'all can help me out with this, of the top urban myths that people think are true. For instance, bulls don't like the color red. That's not true. They're colorblind. They don't like a person waving a cape in their face. And so I've got like 30, 40, 50, stuff like that. Frogs give you warts or toads or whatever. There's a bunch of them. You'd be surprised. And even I learned a lot that I just assumed were true. So that's kind of fun. So there's that. That's another podcast topic for another day.
Vaccines don't work. That's a myth.
Oh, yeah.
All right, step up.
Hi, my name is David Olm, and since we're talking about world history right now and a book on world history in English, do you think that the human experimentation that they participated in during World War II, like the Japanese Unit 731 and Dr. Joseph Mengele, what they did, do you think if they hadn't done it then it would never have been done and it was actually beneficial, even though it was very inhumane and unethical, and that it should have been done?
Well, some of the experiments that Mengele did with twins and siblings are definitely inhumane, and I would say no, they should not have been done just because of do you know about the Daisy experiment with the petals and all that? I mean, obviously that is just exceptionally cruel. Would they ever been done? I think people and scientists and doctors throughout the world will push the boundaries and the limits, and even, the limits are not the same here in the United States as they are in China or Russia or any other parts of the world. So, things like human experimentation with cloning and things like that, with CRISPR technology, and I know that's kind of veering into more modern things, but I think people are always going to push the boundaries.
We visited a cemetery in Scotland that's famous for selling corpses. So, this body snatching that you might do, they had to put cages over tombs because they could get 7 pounds, which was like a month's worth, by getting a fresh corpse and getting it to the medical students down the road. By the way, this is the same cemetery where the woman that wrote the Harry Potter books, she got a lot of the names. We saw the grave of Tom Riddle, and we saw the grave of Moody and McGonagall, just FYI, because she wrote it in Scotland.
You can agree that snatching corpses for scientific experimentation is a tad different than snatching up somebody's living child.
Oh,
yeah, just making sure we're on the same page with that.
But pushing science and doing things that we would consider unethical.
Right. So, anybody who's ever had a transplant, in a weird way, you can trace that back to some of the experimentation that you're talking about. And as horrendous and brutally cruel as that was, strangely, there are benefits that have come from the knowledge that was gained through that. And so I hate to, is it really comparing, is that easy to do? It's not. So it would be foolish to not at least admit that down the road it has saved lives. And I don't know if, how do you balance that equation? Okay, it's tough.
I think no matter what, it would have happened in some capacity. Maybe not to the inhumane level that it did.
You mean like through voluntary measures and things like that, or?
Maybe like, it wasn't during the Great Depression where people started selling their children.
Oh, yeah.
That same thing would have happened.
Yeah, eugenics, of course, was big during this time, which is a similar, we need to get rid of we can experiment on these people, or, the people that they sterilize. It's a dark history. Once again, can humans profit from it? Yeah, but I don't think that excuses the horror.
Yeah, right.
And hopefully we don't repeat those things. I don't think it would be justified.
Yeah, I just want to make sure I clarify. Torture, bad. Okay, bad.
If we gain some great medicine and stuff, it's not worth it if we we lose what it is to be human and care about other humans.
What about the conversation carrying that down to animals, though? Because I know there's a big push to end testing on any kind of, I assume mammals, monkeys, things like that. Rabbits, I think, also.
And factory farming. How do we treat, just to get our food supply going?
Well, yeah.
I think those are moral questions we will have to deal with unless the robots take over and deal with it for us.
Hi, I'm Gracie Percival, and I just want your opinion on, do you think the great American poet Emily Dickinson was a lesbian?
Do we have a basis of knowledge on whether or not Emily Dickinson was a lesbian?
Never done this research.
There was a book released in the 1950s that shocked everybody about the theory, And then it's been supposedly people have proven it through letters that were written to her best friend Sue. And if you can kind of go back and look through her poetry and make the argument.
What if it was a boy named Sue? Johnny Cash.
Hey. Let me start
It's a Johnny
with
Cash
this. I did a semester or two during my master's work on like feminist studies and things like that. And one of the things that I realized during that time frame was that the labeling, if you will, of what it means to be lesbian or same-sex couples or whatever is relatively new. And so relationships and the dividing line between what should be and should not be on a moral stance wasn't necessarily clearly defined in the time frame that you're talking about. So, and there was an expectation, as a matter of fact, because men and women lived in such separate spheres, and men had the go off and work and provide or whatever, and women were expected to be more domesticated and take care of a sort of I hate to use the word nesting, but kind of that scenario, take care of the children, run the household or whatever. But then also that because there wasn't necessarily, depending on the class structure that you were in, wasn't necessarily a loving relationship that was expected or even demanded. And so, and this happens not just here in the United States, but also in Western countries like France and Britain, where it was encouraged that women would have very close relationships with their female friends. Did that also include emotional relationships and physical relationships? Most likely. And so, would it have been considered taboo or labeled any particular way,
Or illegal.
or illegal? Not necessarily. Not in the same way that it would have been defined for a man in a same-sex relationship. By the way, so it was less. I guess taboo is the right word to use there. So I don't know that if she was in fact interested in same-sex relationships, and we might today label that as lesbianism, would she have considered it that way? I mean, so it's hard for us to kind of define that, you know.
And also conveying emotions and affections through a letter in the 19th century might be very different than we would do it today. So maybe the language that she used, it seems that way today, but maybe that wasn't how people took it back then. I know, like James Buchanan, of course, a president that could have been a homosexual, but it's hard to know, even reading all his letters and stuff, even though he never got married. It's hard to know for sure about that. Eleanor Roosevelt, I mean, the list goes on and on of people with these rumors around them. So,
well, even culturally, you have in many different cultures where you have relationships between men and in the warrior class and raising people in a different sense of the word. You have many examples throughout history where it's more of a coming of age. And this is what you do as you're raised in a particular sense, in a particular tribe, in a particular culture, that we would define a lot differently today. It's just the way the society interacts and how people interact, and you're placed under the care of this individual. And you look through all different tribal regions in Greece and Macedonia and all those ancient cultures, homosexuality was not as taboo as it became in the Western world and then later into, I guess, modern age. And so could she have been, to that point, the interactions are just so different then than they are today, I guess.
Oh, I mean, I don't know too much about these letters or anything, but I think it would be very common for that time period for it to be like a close friendship relationship that could have been interpreted as greater than.
But back to my original point, even if it had become a physical relationship and a very close loving relationship, it wouldn't necessarily have been tricky for anyone in society to understand that or to know that about them. You see what I'm saying? So it would be a different view and perception of that relationship regardless of how far it progressed.
Hi, my name is Molly Outler, and my question is, who's more influential, Mozart or the Beatles?
Beethoven, more than both for sure. But Mozart...
For sure? Why do you say for sure?
Beethoven?
Yeah.
Oh, he changed the game.
Mozart didn't? Bach?
Mozart needed more time. Mozart did. I mean, he's a prodigy, of course. Bach, number 2 for me. Beethoven, Bach, 1, 2. Mozart, it's tough because he's...
Handel?
I don't know that he had the biggest impact. He did a lot of minuets and stuff, and that kind of died out. But when you listen to movies, soundtracks, Beethoven's all over that stuff. Bach, too, is somebody that was way ahead of his time. And even Beethoven would say, yeah, Bach was 200 years before his time.
Are we comparing influence in modern day? Obviously, that would be a little trickier maybe. But because you can't go back and say that the Beatles influenced.
I was thinking
Baroque
more
or classical.
modern day instruments,
Yeah.
melodic structures.
What about inventiveness? If we
Composing.
compared them that way, because the Beatles continually pushed for new creative sounds and open new doors with different types of instrumentation and electronics and reverberation and redubbing and that kind of stuff. Does that matter? Does the technology of the time matter as far as their influence on other people? Can you imagine Mozart or any of these other boys with the same kind of equipment that we have, or that the Beatles would have been working with and creating in the 60s?
I mean, the
60s.
few classical composers that we know were geniuses. I mean, they're perfect pitch. For sure, Beethoven had perfect pitch. Mozart, of course. I mean, like, he would be a prodigy today with music, and he would just be better than everybody and be so obvious.
Okay, Mr. Musician, answer me this. How does Beethoven continue to have perfect pitch even though he went deaf? Like, that seems like that wouldn't work anymore.
Well, he even wrote in a letter, he said, of all the people on the planet, for me to lose my hearing, when it is the one gift I have that outshines all. Imagine that. You get blessed with perfect pitch, which means you hear notes like we see colors. You hear an A, and that's the color red. My sister has perfect pitch, so I've done a lot of research on this. The reason we are nearly 100% sure he has perfect pitch is because it would be impossible to compose the Ninth Symphony or any symphony when he was completely deaf. He heard it all in his head. He didn't need to hear. Like if you give me a guitar and I start playing it and I couldn't hear it, it could be out of tune. I mean, I wouldn't know what anything sounded like because I only have relative pitch. So,
But because he heard it in his head and then he could write down what he heard?
Yeah, and we
okay.
also think because as you get older, your perfect pitch drops a half step, a full half step perfectly, that we think the Ninth Symphony is not supposed to be in B flat, but he heard it in his head like in B. It's so weird. I'm sorry. I'm geeking out.
You're geeking out.
Back to the Beatles. I do think that they are the most influential band of the modern era, but when you start talking about modern music, all you got to do is take one step back. Who influenced the Beatles, and then who influenced, and there's a line from jazz and blues all the way to the Beatles and rock. If you listen to Beatles music,
I don't know.
8 days a week.
It's very snobbery of you to say that, sir.
What's
Me?
It starts in F. Most of them are blues riffs. Okay, so we're talking about blues, and then you just go back a step. But I do think they changed the game as being world famous, and I'll shut up now.
Right,
Is it snobbish to say I do not like the Beatles?
I'm asking you about that, and it seems snobbish. Yes, sir, it does. So go with that.
What?
Why would you just automatically just trash that out and without stopping to consider what you're saying?
Oh, because I do not like the Beatles at
Why?
all.
I'm asking you why. And you can't go with because I'm a metalhead. Like that's
it's
a
not a
cop
metal.
out.
It's not a. It's a taste thing.
Is it
right?
It's a growth issue, I think.
It's a growth issue.
Personal
I am a
growth.
grown man. Trust me. I have, and my mother would probably strangle me if she heard this, but I've never been a Beatles fan. There's 4 or 5 songs that
You're blaming that on your mother? Like this?
Well, no,
that's
she's
very
a
Freudian.
huge Beatles fan, and
Okay.
she grew up in that era. But she was also a Zeppelin and a Sabbath and that fan, and I was more progressed towards that side of things. Maybe it's just my personality, but
It just seems like you're limiting yourself unnecessarily.
there is a time and a place for everything, and I've yet to find the time or place that's appropriate for me to listen to the Beatles and enjoy it.
Okay, no, it's fair. I'm just asking.
By the way, this is my conversation with Led Zeppelin. I missed it. I never got into them.
I'm better than the Beatles.
I don't. I know. I mean, I'm like, once again, I now appreciate them. But for 20 years, I didn't listen to them, didn't understand why people liked them. Pink Floyd, same thing, because I missed it. Now I appreciate it because I've had to go back and learn some of that stuff, and I realize how intricate. And
Listen,
cool
do
it
we
is.
say what he said? I had to learn some of that stuff.
I had to, yeah. So once we force you to learn some Beatles, you learn how to play the guitar. I've got some songs to learn.
I bet your brother was into things like Beatles and Pink Floyd and Led Zeppelin. Yes,
Well, he was a hair docking and.
but as musically inclined as he is, I would assume that he had wider range of tastes. No?
Yeah, I mean, eventually.
Oh, okay.
He went to country, chicken picking and Chet Atkins, and then he went to Joe Satriani, and he's all over the place. I don't know that he went. I do know he likes Zeppelin and stuff like that.
Just because you grew up on Limp Bizkit doesn't mean that there aren't other
Hey.
things out there for you to listen to.
Are you talking to me?
I can't help.
I'm talking to all y'all.
be
Oh,
under-
no. I didn't
Well, not
go-
these
60 years
'cause she's-
old.
Okay, sorry.
Look, just because I can understand, and I feel like I'm being attacked here all of a sudden by Franklin. I got my hack. And
It's
he gave
not
me
that
a-
at all. It's just I'm concerned about your well-being. It's not an attack. It's care.
It's not care.
It is. I care a lot.
Look, just because I do not like the Beatles does not mean I cannot recognize their influence on the musical world and the pop culture
That's
world.
Cop out. No.
Look, I can recognize that Taylor Swift is influential. That does not mean I like her.
Oh yeah, let's go down to
As I'm trying to
take it off me. Let's put it on somebody else.
Okay. What have you? Okay. No. What you do a lot of Taylor Swift stuff. So I want to ask you this: what else do you have in your repertoire, as opposed to just? I mean, because it's got to be more than that. What else have you grown up on, young one? What have you grown up on? Musically?
I mean, can I just generalize and say I listen to mostly pop music?
Yeah, sure.
In general, a little bit of rap, not much.
You just Spotify it, whatever comes on is good enough?
Yeah, I'm very much put my Spotify on shuffle, and I'm fine with whatever. But I had a question for y'all, and I feel like this is a good time for now. We vaguely talked about it in the hallway one day. What's your guilty pleasure music artist? The person you're slightly embarrassed to admit you actually like listening to?
Pink. I love Pink. I
like
love
Pink, too.
her. She's awesome.
She is awesome.
I would go to that concert.
Yeah, I mean, everybody knows I like beatboxing, but also with beatboxing, of course, is a cappella stuff. I love harmonies, so I could listen to that stuff all day. I guess that's a guilty pleasure, but at my age, I don't care. So,
All right, now
judge me if you
just
want.
the last time to defend myself and my musical growth. As I look out here,
You are protesting way too much about this.
Aaliyah has been in my classroom. She knows I have a very eclectic, well-rounded musical taste.
I don't know what to say to that because I really
I only like
I'm
cool
not,
stuff.
I'm not embarrassed about anything I
know.
listen to, so therefore I don't know what to say to that. I will have to keep thinking. I don't have a knee-jerk reaction. I'm sorry. Taylor Swift.
So how about?
Oh, you admit?
I mean, I like Taylor Swift. Yeah, I do. But
And I'm
I don't
kind of
think that's a
getting into
guilty
Miley
pleasure. I mean,
Cyrus as well. I like her stuff. She's cool.
Okay, that.
Yes,
I struggle
the voice.
I struggle there, like you did with the
help it.
Beatles. Apparently.
What are y'all's thoughts on Beyonce's country album?
Yeehaw.
Have y'all
what
listened
is it?
to
This,
any of it?
This ain't
I haven't heard
Texas.
any of it.
It's got a catchy little
Yeah.
thing. My wife's name is Jolene, so we hear and listen to every version of Jolene that's ever been written. Not a fan of that one, but I do like the other. So
I was not.
It's interesting.
Yeah, I'm not
happy-
against it. I would listen to it. Yeah,
I was not happy with some of the country music people getting offended by Beyonce doing a country song. I mean, who did that? Nas.
Lil
Lil Nas X. Yeah.
They were more accepting of him than Beyonce. I don't understand that. And by the way, if you look at country artists, it's not like they're cowboys. Luke Bryan, all these folks, they act like, I've got a truck, I got a dog, but do they really? I mean, where were they raised?
Until they lose them all in the divorce, they're not really a country music
Yeah.
artist. Yeah, thank you.
So, yeah, I mean, country music is more than just Southern cowboys anymore, so I don't understand that.
Are there
but-
people who have a problem with the Beyonce
I heard there was
country
some
album?
I think so, but I'm not entirely sure.
Well, it seems ignorant.
Well, they're threatened because the bees? Is it the bees? Is that what they are?
beehive.
The beehive. The beehive will take over, and she will be the highest grossing and selling country artist at all time. And
So?
people are threatened.
So
Well, they're
what?
threatened.
Why?
I'm not.
Who cares?
Because they're fools.
They're fools. There you go.
fools.
By the way, I know we're talking about the Beatles.
And they
just
probably like the
slightly underrated to me during the same time as the Beach Boys. Nobody gives them as much credit. They get overshadowed by the Beatles, but
Mega
Beach Boys,
competi-
wouldn't it be nice? if-
Mega competition between those two groups, by the way, to keep pushing the envelope of what sounds can you create. The Pet Sounds album, coupling up with I think it was Dr. Pepper, Sergeant Pepper, and both groups just back and forth trying to outdo each other musically.
Yeah,
and
that was an
creatively.
interesting little.
Yeah. So no, I agree with that. Yeah, Beach Boys.
All right, next question. We can talk about music for the rest of the night.
All right, what's up? I am Emerson, and my question is, which member of the Beatles can you beat in a fight, and which Beatle could beat you in a fight, and why?
If any Beatle beat me in a fight at their age, I mean, how old is Paul McCartney now?
80?
I think I could take him.
Well, it kind of helps that two of them are dead.
That's true.
So I could probably
Take them.
We could probably take down easily.
In their prime, maybe? Is that
Their prime. yes.
okay? Do they have their instruments on them? Like, are they?
Yes. All of them.
Lennon's probably the tallest maybe, so he'd have the longest reach. It would be harder.
Seems like he did some
harder
Tai
to get
Chi
to
or
him.
something.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, dude was willing to drill a hole in his head to get like that third eye vision, and Paul McCartney talked him out of that. So I don't know that I want to mess with a dude who's willing to actually take a drill to his forehead for personal enlightenment. I don't know that. Can you beat somebody like that? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't see them as being too awful tough. I think they did a lot of drugs.
Yeah, catch him in their euphoric state and just beat the hell out of him. Yeah, maybe. Which one is the? All right. I should have that. Who would be the easiest to take down in your opinion? Just let me throw that back at you.
I want to say Paul.
Yeah. Why?
Yeah, Paul. I don't know. He's the littlest.
Yeah.
You grab him, get him real quick. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's a
I feel
southpaw.
like Ringo. I feel like Ringo though would be the hardest.
He's scrappy. Ringo is very
Exactly.
scrappy and Survivor.
Seems like, yeah.
You forget about George.
George is so mellow though, man.
George is so yeah, but
I feel like George wouldn't even want to fight.
He let Eric Clapton take his wife. He's pretty mellow.
Okay, fair enough. There you go.
Yeah, they're all pretty
Yeah, that happened.
pacifist, I think.
Yeah, not worried at all.
I've never contemplated a brawl between the history department and the Beatles, but yeah, we're gonna.
I think we do pretty well against the Beatles, I think.
My name is Mason McElrath, and last Sunday on Easter, the president posted about Trans Awareness Day. Do you think this is going to help his campaign or hurt his campaign?
I don't think it matters for his campaign because the people that would vote, I don't think that affects his voting base. When the people who are going to vote against Biden or not vote for Biden weren't going to vote for Biden anyway. He's not going. I think the bigger issue with him losing votes will be because of the Israel-Palestine issue. He's getting a lot of pushback in the Muslim communities in the United States. I think that will be, and that was a large growth segment for him in the last election. I think that will hurt it more than that will because the people that were against Biden can just say, look, see, I told you, and that's it. And they're just go about their lives.
Also, those 2 days, I mean, like, Easter moves around. So it's not like he posted on Easter for trans awareness. Trans awareness was already on that date. Easter happened to fall on that date. And it was weird to me when people got outraged about him doing that. Did you see Trump's post on Easter? Happy Easter. Hillary Clinton is coming. I mean, like he had a tweet that long just berating people. And then he ended again with Happy Easter. And I thought, wow, okay.
Yeah.
He actually included Happy Easter. And then he
did.
Insulted a lot of people. And then Happy Easter.
Hashtag by my Bible.
Which is, he's trolling. Of course, Trump is just trolling people. But but the other thing I think is just a coincidence. I think he would have probably gotten more trash from his followers if he didn't acknowledge it, since it actually is on that day.
And has been for, I don't know when they established that connection with the date.
A few years ago.
Yeah. So I agree with you. I don't think it was going to detract from anybody who was already detracted.
I just feel at this point, there's not many people. Most people's mind is made up. Is that just me? If we're going between Trump and Biden, which we don't actually know for sure, but I think it's everybody's mind's pretty much made up.
I had a thought. You know how like we used to have to call people, and when you talk to a person either in person or on the phone, you have to be kind of cordial and whatever. Then we started texting, no tone, and people say weird stuff, and they get more aggressive and just naturally maybe that happened to our politics. When politicians got on Twitter, they weren't facing a camera and having to explain themselves. So they're just typing. Maybe they got more aggressive automatically too. I don't know. Just thought, because it is weird.
All right, get your popcorn ready.
Hello, my name is Landon Geiger. First of all, this is my first time here. It's nice
Hey, man,
to see all
welcome.
y'all.
Yeah.
I've wanted to come forever, but I wanted to come before I graduate and move to Tennessee.
What else is happening in your life? Go ahead and tell us.
Well, you see, I got like a bucket with an empty cup in it.
I see that. I was wondering about your bucket and cup
Yeah, I just
scenario.
came from the movies to study. I went to the empty theater and studied, read the book that I'm behind on.
Yeah. What movie?
I watched Dune. I like it.
Dune? Yeah.
Everyone thinks it's boring. You're incorrect.
Yeah. No, Dune.
Okay.
that's cool.
Okay. Back to my question.
So you watched Dune and read a book.
Yeah.
Simultaneously.
Yeah. No. I wasn't watching it. I was just in.
So you
I'm confused.
You paid money.
No,
to
I worked
not
there.
What? You could have led with that.
Different.
I work.
You did not specify that part.
Y'all give it up for Landon. Everybody knows Landon.
It's an important
I'm
point.
sorry.
Yes.
First time caller.
Yes. All right.
All right.
Excellent.
Yeah, I'll be
what's up?
here all night.
First time, long time.
So,
All right. No. Yeah. Go ahead.
yeah. All right. So if you've known me long enough, I'm a man of hypotheticals, and I was trying to choose which one I'd tell you, and I finally came up with it. So,
Okay.
if given the choice between infinite water in a bottle of your possession or infinite gas in a car of your possession, which would you choose? Meaning that, like, whatever car you get in, it's full and it'd be full forever, and whatever bottle you're holding, it's water and water forever.
Yeah, I gotta go water.
Yeah, water has to be the choice, I think. Yeah. What would be the benefit of eternal gas?
Eternal gas, it's like if you're traveling, if you want to go places, or if you have like a job, if you have a job that makes you travel everywhere.
Yeah.
It also works for planes. If you drive planes, you just drive
Or Mad Max
forever.
if it goes crazy.
You'd Mad Max. Plus, you can get water here for free if you just go a few streets from here.
That's not a bad point.
Yeah. If the limited supply of water is a reality, then my bottle of water is precious, more so than fuel. I guess it depends on what else is happening in the world around us, right? If it's
okay, so let's simplify this. You're here right now.
I am.
Everything's happening right now.
We
What
are.
would you choose?
Yes.
What would you choose?
I'm choosing gas.
You're choosing gas.
Yes, I want to save money.
Okay.
I'm choosing water, and I'm going to travel to places where they don't have good, clean water, and
sell
I'm gonna
it.
No, I'm kidding.
Become a god. That's what you're going to rule.
That's
Magic.
There you go. That's the key right there. Like
Yeah.
I produce.
You just flip
Water
upside down.
forever.
It goes
Yeah.
forever.
Make me king.
Just go water.
Water.
Well, water.
What would you do?
Hydrate.
You wouldn't try anything crazy?
Pour it all over.
the crazy.
So it's unlimited water.
Yes.
Right. So I could go to Lake Mead and just
You could flip it upside down, blah, 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 forever.
You got to go to countries that don't have water.
yeah.
No, anybody,
yeah, you gotta go to countries that don't got water. I mean,
Witness, yeah. Like blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
you could use that trick just
But imagine how much money you'd make, right?
off the water, and then you can afford the gas.
I'm
But
gonna
if
try playing
but
devil's
if
advocate.
in your little scenario though, if we are the masters of all water and we can go to places where they are in need of such, I mean, they don't probably have a need for gas if they don't have freaking water.
Yeah.
So I would probably make more an impact on people's lives with fresh water forever. Come to me, I'm the water bearer, right?
Right.
Aquaman. You could be
Yeah,
Aquaman.
I could be Aquaman. There you go. That's
Exactly.
it. Exactly it.
Maybe think about the near future, though. We're running out of gas pretty quick, but we'll always have water. And if we learn how to filter it, we'll have a lot more.
When we run out of gas, they will stop making
right
internal combustion engines, and they will stop making the parts. And so eventually, the gas will be useless.
Water's gonna be
Hence,
good forever.
Water.
You're gonna need
Oh,
that
you're
water.
right. That's true.
We got 3 waters in one.
Think
gas.
about what they do. You will just watch Dune. Water.
Hi, I'm Amy Nicole. My question is, from the beginning, have you guys always wanted to be teachers? And if not, what made you decide to be a teacher?
Hell no. You wanted to get off the farm.
I was
Yes.
a farmer. I was an athlete. I was wanting to be a coach. Teaching. Who cares? I want to be a coach. I started coaching. I hated coaching. I'm not a risk taker. I didn't mind teaching. I had a great mentor teacher. I fell in love with history. I guess I can do this. I mean, I don't feel like a lot of people, I'm called to be a teacher. I don't feel any of that. I just enjoy history. I was already doing it. I'll just keep doing it. And then I wanted to get good at it. And then I got a couple more degrees around that. And I quit coaching because it was nothing like playing. And I've been teaching ever since. So I kind of fell into it. I love my job, but it's one of those, I'm part of that 15% that, what I was doing, I fell in love with what I was doing. I found passion in what I was already doing. I didn't this is my passion, teaching. I never felt that.
Did you have a moment when you were sort of early on where you were this is secondary. I don't know if I'm going to keep with it. Maybe
yeah.
administration's in my future.
That's where I was
thing.
headed
Yeah.
until things got wacky. And I do love history. I mean, if you don't know that about me, you don't know me. So, and I'm learning. Like I spend every night reading about history. I am a nerd. I love it so much. And that's why I enjoy doing that, as a teacher.
Jolly?
Yeah. No, when I went to college, I did not go to college to become a teacher. But about my second year in college, my coaches were a huge influence on me in coaching, and I was around them and I worked around them, and they said, "Hey, I think you could do this, and you'd be a good coach." And as I went down that road, when I graduated from college, I did not immediately go into teaching and coaching. I did some business things and out in the business world. And every time I'd reconnect with one of my old coaches, they would say, these old guys have been in it for decades and decades and decades. They would just say, Lou, you're wasting your life, boy. You know what you're supposed to be doing. You're wasting your life. Mm-hmm. And I would always think about that.
Chain smokers, were they?
Well, yeah, probably, and loud, get that. And so, and one of the important things to me is, are you making a difference with what you do? And I'm one of these, I took a pay cut to get into teaching, but it's the difference that makes you want to do it because of the influence I felt from others. And, and I always said, I would never be in education and not coach. And it's nothing against the classroom, but being here with these guys have made me a better teacher and things like that. I was like, man, it's, there's a whole different side of it that I've been exposed to while working with these guys in this department. It's been a really good growing, learning experience for me. I think that the impact that we can have on people, I mean, there's nothing more than seeing a student or a player invite you to their wedding, invite you to the birth of their children, to introduce you to their children on the street and saying, hey, this was my coach. And this is the guy I keep telling you about. It's like, oh man, that's so awesome. And there's no greater pain than going to a funeral of a student or an athlete or something that you've been around for a long time. And man, it's just ingrained in me now.
I feel like I've said this on here before, but I've always wanted to be a teacher. From kindergarten, you drew that when I grow up, I want to be, and it was a teacher. There was a brief moment, my senior year of high school, where I was debating pursuing like a law degree instead to be a child advocacy lawyer. I ultimately am satisfied with my decision at this point. But what were y'all doing at 25? Because y'all hadn't gotten to education yet. Were you?
Oh yeah, I'd been teaching 5 years.
Oh.
I was old and grizzled at 25. No, I was still up till 30. I was looking at administration or maybe doing something else. I mean, it's only been 10, 12 years that I've been locked in. But I nearly took off to U of A to get a kinesiology and physiology degree. I nearly made the move to do a bunch of things. So it was years before I really locked in, as they say.
No, I had so many people in my family who were already in the education field. And there was this expectation that I probably would too. And that weirdly sort of drove me away from it. I'm like, you're going to be a teacher someday, just like the rest of us. I'm like, the hell I will. You watch me. I'll show you. I mean, it was not really that, but kind of. And so teaching was not my first choice. However, having been in a retail environment and being part of a corporate scenario, it's a grind. I didn't feel that I had any passion left for what I was doing there. I kind of was going through motions, so to speak, and I was looking for something different and a change. And my wife, who's been teaching a lot longer than I have, was like, you should go back and you would be good at this. And I'm like, I don't know. Like, what do I even teach? That kind of, so there was a lot of indecision.
What would you teach?
Come on. What would I? Well, no, I didn't know. Part of me was like, well, maybe science. I knew math was out because I
thought you were a history buff.
I was. Well, I mean, I was, but sort of like on a trivial basis. I had a tangential relationship with it, but nothing really that was deep or satisfying. And so, but I decided ultimately that was what it would be. Although I will go back to what Jolly was saying just for a second. Everybody told me, because I was determined not to be a coach. I'm going to teach, and nothing against coaches, but it wasn't something that interested me. And they're like, "You're never going to get a job. You are never going to get a job if you don't get a coaching certificate go along with your licensure." And I'm like, "Well, then I won't have a freaking job. I'm just going to trust that this is going to work." And it did. And the more I did it, the more I realized that, going back to what you said too, the impact that you can make. And then I became fascinated with the subject matter. And I just found that I had a knack for it, especially from like a storytelling aspect. And I can't imagine myself doing anything different at this point. Like, I absolutely 100% love what I'm doing. And I hope that everybody here who is sort of searching for something can find something like that you can love just as passionately, because it's been a tremendous blessing in my life. And we've been closer as a family because of it. I've had time with we've had time that I didn't have before. Got to watch my kids grow up and be an active part of their lives. And so it's been a great decision, although it was not my first or even second choice, honestly.
By the way, I hope you appreciate this is weird for a history department to do this outside of hours. I've been to several schools. This has never happened. So hopefully y'all appreciate the fact, because this is important to us too.
The level of camaraderie that we have and the way that we treat each other with respect and admiration, and we push each other professionally, it's amazing. And I think that's helped too. We all gel together so well, So, and that really helps me too. But even if it wasn't for the department, I would still like truck along and do this because it's about you guys ultimately and trying to help you understand how to have a better. It's not just about the content that we're delivering. You understand? It's about you trying to learn something about yourself and the world around you so that you can be more productive as you go older and you won't be fooled and duped by all of the people who might try to fool and dupe you, and that you can be a stronger individual moving forward so that you can then carry that forward. We're paying it forward essentially, and I believe in it deeply, and I hope that comes across.
Okay, we're going to have to go lightning round with the last few questions here. We got about 5 minutes.
Well, we started a little late,
Bring
so
it
we can.
on.
Yeah, we can. Okay, go ahead.
All right, my name is Jared Higgins, and I have another hypothetical for you.
Yep.
Assuming you cannot change the outcome, would you rather know how you died or when you died?
How?
How? I don't know how.
I don't want to know when. How's fine.
I guess how. I don't know.
I'm the oddball. When? I want to know when. How? Because then you're always like, anytime you're in that scenario, you're like, is this it? You know?
I wouldn't be in that
Is this the one? But yeah, what if you couldn't necessarily avoid whatever that you don't know what the thing is until you do know what the thing is. Then all of a sudden you're maybe paranoid about whatever. You know, anytime you're around a fire, you're like, oh, this is the one. It's going to conflagration. Yeah. But if I know when, unless it's like, in 10 minutes, then you're like, oh, crap. But if it's when, you can like prepare and be more.
That's true.
And be more self-aware and take the time to do things you're always trying to put off. Perhaps I'll do that later. Well, by God, you don't have later, so you better get on that, son.
But if it's like June 27th, 2028, you'd be like, oh, I thought I had more time. And then from that, every morning you wake up, here it comes, one day less.
I don't know. I like the ability to organize.
I like the surprise.
All right, I'm Nicole Smith, and I was going to ask, what's the most difficult thing for you to talk about when you're teaching history?
I don't understand economics very well. I try to teach economics a little, and I'm, I guess, too dumb, or I've not done enough research. But when we start talking about that, now I know you probably mean something more controversial, but I'll teach whatever as far as that goes, I think.
Yeah, we don't. That's another thing I like about what we do and how we do it, and the support that we have to allow us to do that. We don't have to be shy or hold back. I mean, if a kid asks a question, especially, like, we have the flexibility to answer as best we can. If we don't know, we have the awareness to say, you know what? Because I think that's been a problem in the past with some teachers that I had. You ask them a question, they're either offended by that question, which we're not. We're hard to offend. But secondly, if they don't know, then that makes them mad. How dare you ask me that? If I don't know, I tell you I don't know. We're very straightforward and realistic. So I don't know if I have a problem. Yeah, anything that you uncomfortable teaching? I don't know.
I've never been uncomfortable teaching anything because I like a little controversy and to stir it up at times. I'm not scared of that, but it's all because of my cooperating teacher. Do you remember Lynn Leopard at Hot Springs High? Mm-hmm. So my original teaching field was health and physical education, surprise coach, right? So my very first thing on about the third day, she said, okay, you're going to teach tomorrow. It's a room full of 9th grade health students. You're going to teach tomorrow. Okay, what am I teaching? You're going to teach sex education. And I'm going, if you can do this, you can teach. And she left the room. and so I had to figure that out as a 21-year-old. I was like, oh, this is crazy. But I look back and that's a very valuable lesson because I had to be mature and be, correct and had to manage the situation so when it spiraled out of control.
Find the right words.
Find the right words.
By the way, I changed my answer. Sex education. I'd be uncomfortable teaching that.
I can't think of anything that maybe just when I taught more controversial things the first time, being a relatively new teacher, the first time, get it out of the way, it made me a little nervous. Now it's not as difficult.
I don't know about uncomfortable. I don't, even though we do a lot of controversial topics and heavy things and war and conflict and this and that and all the interruptions that come along with the story. Like that's actually what history tends to be. It's the punctuation and the notation of things that have gone wrong and then how you recover from that, hopefully, or what happens next. But I don't like teaching about pain and suffering, even though it is part of the story. Like I don't. Like I know we do a big thing with Torture Day, and we make a big deal about that. But there's a part of my brain that just will not allow myself to really, truly feel that because I just have to distance myself from it because I can't handle. I'm very soft-hearted ultimately, and I just don't. It's intriguing in one way because it's macabre, but then at the same time, if you really think about what it means for people to be going through what you're talking about, I just can't do that. So uncomfortable on that level maybe is what I could answer.
Yeah, there's also some things we choose not to share. I mean, obviously in college and stuff, I had to read stuff that was really dark, really disturbing. Some things I kind of give you a little bit of it, but it's not that I'm choosing not to do it. It's not going to be on any standard. There's no really reason to bring up something that could be really disturbing to some people. So we don't just share everything. So there might be a little bit of that where I don't share the gruesome details of how black women were treated during Reconstruction or something that we know some horrific stuff about. But it's not that we're scared. Probably it's just that there's no need to push for no reason. But once again, sex education. I don't want to teach that. I would be very uncomfortable.
No, especially the ninth graders.
I'll call Jolly in. Hey, Jolly, I got something.
I do not teach it.
All right, my name's Kate Espinoza. This is my first time here,
Hey,
and
man,
I
welcome.
just got a nice.
Were you at the movies too?
Huh?
You don't work there, do you?
Okay.
I was gonna ask, what was your worst subject when you were in school?
Math.
Worst performing subject? Yes, math.
Yeah.
Specifically trigonometry.
I was even more basic than that. Algebra kicked my ass. I just every day it was a struggle. I was like, God help me, help me.
By the way, I hated all subjects equally. PE, sports. That was about the only thing I cared about. But when I had to teach, or when I wanted to coach, they said you got to teach something, and you can't do health, math, and I said just whatever you're going to say next. They said history. I said cool.
Yeah.
Let's do that.
I was not a good student. I was not the whole school thing was there for entertainment value, not for educational value for me. So, but math, man, I hate math. 2 plus 2 sucks.
It's rough.
2 plus 2 is 22.
Chemistry was mine.
Chem? Yeah, well, there's a lot of math in that, though. Yeah.
All right.
All right, I'm Jack Krause, and Landon's oil and water situation got me thinking.
Okay.
Most of you guys picked water, and you said that would have the biggest impact on the world. But do you think that having infinite oil, becoming super rich, and being a philanthropist like Andrew Carnegie, do you think that would also have a perhaps bigger lasting impact?
Do we have to hurt as many people as Carnegie hurt before we become philanthropists?
He left the country when he let somebody else hurt the people.
Oh.
I mean, I understand your point. Gas, make a bunch of money, then use the money to help people. I don't know. I really think we would be surprised at how many people around the world don't have clean drinking water. So I think you got to start there as far as helping people. Once everybody on the planet has drinking water that doesn't kill them and they have a plenty of it, then you can step 2. But I don't know. I mean, how far would that money really go? Inflation goes.
If you think about it, though, a lot of philanthropists that I know who've taken the time to try to use something productive with their money, a lot of them are like trying to deliver clean water to people. And so it's almost like you circled back to where you were to begin with.
But that is a good thought.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess you'd have to be sure that OPEC doesn't kill you first if you are.
That's true.
Well,
that would
there's
be
that. Yeah. Self-preservation.
All right.
Excellent.
We have one more question real quick.
All right, come on.
My name is Megan Abney, and we got into this a little bit in 7th period today, but do you think that food and water should be a human right, and what would be the standard of the food and water that you give?
Well, we did say food and water, and actually we said water then food, right? So clean water and the standard, you mean how much clean water? I mean, just access to clean water.
The amount and the quality, do you just give the basic nutritional value that you need? Do you give, you said earlier, Cheetos to everybody? Or what's the standard of the quality and the quantity?
I mean, I would think access to wholesome foods, yeah? Was that?
I mean, that's the problem today, right? I mean, the cheapest food is the worst food for you, which, of course, so that means the people in the poorest neighborhoods and stuff suffer the most from unhealthy
What's the word?
obesity
Food
and all
deserts?
that.
Have you heard that term? Where the people who live in certain areas don't have easy access to even any kind of
supermarkets.
Yeah, supermarkets and whatnot.
They have to travel far
And the problem is when you talk about government assistance for this, it usually comes in the form of things where you could take it and do something else with it. So what we need is a system to where food actually gets put into the hands of people that need it. That infrastructure and logistics, I can't imagine trying to do, but that would be a good thing to ensure that everyone had 3 square meals of decent nutrition delivered to them, that you couldn't trade it for something else,
Human right? I can't argue with that. I mean, how can you and be a decent human being?
You don't deserve hydration.
I have all the water. As the quality or the type of food, and I think we at times see this around the world and even in our own society, is human nature kind of drives people to always say, well, why do I just get that? Why are you giving me that? That's not good enough. They have that. They have steak. I have government cheese. It's not fair. Yes, I got government cheese. It's delicious, by the way. But
on the other hand, though,
is it ever enough?
Is profitability the absolute driving force that decides where we draw the line about who gets what? Does it have to be something that's profitable, and then other people can then make money off it before we say, well, then we can give it to them. If we can't profit from it, then we're not going to deliver that. I mean, is that ultimately does it come back to the money? Whether we decide whether people get to not starve or not?
I mean, maybe the baseline level would be like a public utility. Like we give everybody clean, quality water. There's not differences. You don't have cheap water and good water. And then maybe there's a baseline of food that you can opt out of. You don't have to take it.
No.
Or you can opt into this public utility, but it's offered to everyone. I don't know how that would work. I just thought of that 7 seconds ago.
Wouldn't it be based off some sort of food pyramid or something where, like, here are the essentials, you need these vitamins and minerals that go in your diet, and here are the items that provide that, and then anything past that is kind of on you, I would assume.
Yeah.
Like, it's not low end. It's like nutritional sustenance, So maybe that's where you go. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, all right. We just solved hunger. Did we?
Wait a minute. No. One last thing, Rook. The elephant in the room.
Oh, the eclipse.
Welcome to
the
Eclipse Weekend. Yeah. So just real quick, did you have some knowledge on that we wanted to?
Oh, do you want me to share what I saw this afternoon?
Right,
okay, so left school after school this afternoon, drove towards Malvern, which is close to the interstate. On my way back, coming back towards town, every single car I was behind had an out-of-state license plate. My mom drove towards Airport Road today around 3 o'clock. She sat on the bypass for 30 minutes trying to get off of the bypass because there's already so much traffic.
Buckle up, everybody.
So go get gas after this if you're driving.
So for future humans, it's April 4th. On April 8th, we're expecting a solar eclipse.
Full solar eclipse.
Right here in Arkansas, right up kind of this area all the way, I guess, to New York. I have no idea how it goes.
And even though this happens, like, it's not unusual to have a solar eclipse or even a full one, but this is something you said to me that I didn't understand. This one apparently is going to, the path
in which it's going across the United States is hitting some of the largest populations, so it will be the most viewed, will be able to be the most viewed total solar eclipse in the United States since like the 1700s or something like that.
Since our population is so much larger now, so that's pretty cool to think that we're going to be part of an actual historic event, based on population and where this path actually goes through. Prepare yourself for this because, from what we can tell from pre-bookings and things like that, there's going to be a lot of folks here, and it's already starting to...
Yeah, you're going to wish you had unlimited gas.
And water.
You don't fill up your... All right, that is the podcast.
Thank
we'll
you,
see you on the flip-flop. Thank you, Collective Coffee. Goodbye.